Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to SP Reviews, where today I'll be reviewing an album from an act named Benedek Rakovics titled Heartbreak. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves the tracks on the screen, including the artwork for the album Heartbreak. This has got Benedek Rakovics as well as Dmitry Makovic, which is cool. It should be noted that there is a cover of Minu's Heartbreak here, so I'm going to play that first, and then we're also going to listen through Emptiness and Awakening, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's get started. Oh, this is incredibly ominous off the bat with these basses. I like the use of that synth sequencer as well, that's kind of dope. A little bit of flourish there with those filtered lead synths. Very pretty sounding, that kind of post-wave okay, nice punchy kit as well. No? There's a fizzy kind of tonality to the vocals that I don't particularly mind. I kind of dig it. I kind of like the smoothness of it. There's nice presence to those vocals in the mix alongside the synths, the bass, and the drums. And there's an interesting groove along with the rhythm of the percussion. That's Portamento again on those basses as well. We've got that little riser, that you know, there's a lot to appreciate. A little bit of double tracking there on the vocals as well, which kind of helps to articulate and sort of express it further.
You're just here for the heartbreak. You're just here for the heartbreak.
Just here for the heartbreak. Again, there is a sense of sadness from the theme there. I don't know if things are going to necessarily resolve, but I suppose we'll have to find out as we go along. Nice use of working along with the ride cymbals as opposed to the hi-hat folks did previously. Oh, guitar layering for development there. Nice choice. Bit of harmony to goodness there on the left. A great job just having things kind of fade out, peter out a little bit, you know? I appreciate that. Now I should probably articulate the reason why I appreciate things sort of stopping for a minute with the kit. It's just because when you have an instantiation of the drum groove there and you just remove it for a moment, it takes the listener out of the lull of kind of nodding their head along to it. And it's like a breath of fresh air before you go into the next hook. Sensible stuff, to be fair. You're just here for the heartbreak. You're just here for the heartbreak. I do like the work on the kit actually there. Some of those tom fills are really well phrased there. I like the fact that we aren't going for any 16th note rhythms or any faster speeds than those with those hits. Because it works well with the phrasing and everything else rhythm-wise. Going half-time is a nice change of pace here. Helps to, again, freshen things up. Oh no, it is 16ths. Again, going into a head voice here, having different melodies over top, harmonizing, going in and out. It's cool as well. We didn't have that before. We have a clear understanding of music theory and composition here, and how to really sort of elevate a cover like this to suit our own interests. You're just here for the And we're just fading out at the end there, a little sort of swish of the decay on that synth there, and we are finished with the track 1 of this album, Heartbreak, the Minho cover, or Minho. Pretty sure it's Minho. That's what my brain is telling me, but I could have that pronunciation incorrect. I'm sure you'll be able to have a go at, pronouncing it. Sometimes I get the names wrong, and I do apologize for that. But I try my best. But yeah, that was a great start to proceedings. It was great to hear they could do a cover. Now, how are we going to do an original with Emptiness? Just wanted to test the pause button worked, I suppose. Oh, a different tempo. More filtering again of the volume of it. Slow build into it. Slow glide. Nice triplet glide with that, man. The production is on point. We love a really heavy atmospheric synthwave-ish kind of. Again, with the orchestral drums as well. Nice sort of balance there. Very dramatic and theatrical. Or cinematic, should I say. I like the fact that we've got more of an instrumental focus for this one. While I enjoyed the singing in the previous track there, it shows the strength of the performance of the actual composition itself to make that accompaniment sort of excel and elevate. Again, these strings, the tension there, the gravity to it, adding more and more until it becomes sort of full of furor. Like the end of days is on its way. If they aren't doing it already, I would love for these people involved in this, Benedek Rakovics and Dmitry Markovic, to get involved in some scoring for films. I think they'd smash it out of the park. You can't have a match or a kind of movie of these two, It'd be great. I like the fact we've got the triplets coming against the quarter, 8th and 16th note grooves on the drums, the strings, everything else, the brass, the bass. They so counter each other and brush up against each other, and it's not necessarily in the wrong way, but it makes it interesting to listen to because of that contrast. Really simple to follow. Easy to understand chord progression there with broken chord arpeggios. And we're continuing to voice ourselves, build up the frequency spectrum, and then bring it back down again. We had a little bit of a climax, but we're pulling away again. I mean, I'm not upset about that. I think it's very tasteful. A bit of phasing on the drums of them, but that's fine. And we're just in and out. We're just in and out. And then finally we have Awakening, the last track for today of the 3. But where will we go with this? Is this the same key signature that we had previously? I do like the fact that we've centered around a range that we're comfortable with, although because they're typically instrumentals, I'm not sure necessarily why. We don't have to worry about a vocal range. We've got some vocal chops, to be fair. Those starry synths going around the headphones are nice though. Great filtering and sort of notching of them. Up high like that, like stars in the sky. I mean, they are heavily sort of modulated pianos. I mean, the synths as well, in the low end, they just kind of filter around. It's great. Are we going to build it up? What are we going to do with all this information that we've got here? Kind of floaty, sort of electronic kind of vibe here going on with the synths and the pads and the way they come in with those slow envelopes, the attack ones. Sequences, interesting use of panning to put various instruments on the headphones to make the mix sound huge. Very subtle sequencing going on there as a sub-layer. The production work, like the mixing and mastering, is phenomenal. You know, that's top tier. For like an ambience, an atmosphere that's been created by this, they've absolutely smashed it out of the park. I do wonder where we're going with this though. Whether we're going to go further with it. I suppose not, because we're at the end of it. It was sensational. And then we're just in and out. We're done. So to give a little bit of context just during this conclusion for this album of Heartbreak from Benedek Rakovics and Dmitry Markovic. This album is basically going to be representing a soundtrack for an upcoming film or movie that's basically about loving someone in a virtual world. So I assume with the title Heartbreak, maybe things don't necessarily work out too well. As I understand it, you've got this kind of avatar here, the kind of VR kind of avatar thing going on here as well, which is a really interesting concept, and I know that there's a lot of that going on at the moment, so obviously I'll put the links in the final bit of this video for you to check out. But if you're interested in any of what we've sort of listened today, or if you're interested in checking out the project, feel free to go check out their various social medias. But anyways, the conclusion, yeah, I mean, we've talked about what it's about. It's about heartbreak, you know, about, you know, again, I've literally just sort of, to be honest, I've just explained it. It's about the trials and tribulations of that experience of loving someone in a virtual world. And I think that, at least in the vocal cover of Heartbreak, the Meno cover, I think that they express themselves really well in that sort of respect. I think that emotively, because I couldn't understand the language that they were speaking, I think it was mostly Japanese, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, and apologies if I am. But I think that they express themselves really appropriately for an album about that, a track about that, given it is a cover of the Meno song, Heartbreak. But I think that, you know, when we did hear them sing, the story made a lot of sense with it, and they were comfortable in the head and chest voice, and the notes were hit quite, you know, solidly and quite cleanly. And I like the fact that they didn't have to oversaturate their vocals too much to get the sound that they wanted there. I think that the texture of their vocals suited the sound of the accompaniment incredibly well. And I think ultimately I'm very, very happy with this first impressions to what they do as musicians, you know. It sounded like they were struggling with the situation they were in and coming to terms with the reality of the virtual world and their associations and complications that are with that. I think, though, to be fair, the backing with the synth parts, the pads, the leads, the sequencers, along with the bass, the strings, the little guitar plucks we had in the second verse, for example, all the orchestral elements and the instrumentals. I think that another strength of these tracks, not just that they are like below the 4-minute mark, so it makes them nice and easy to listen to, because I'm not sure how we would have gone with a long form sort of like track, but definitely for the first, if each of these tracks, you know, below 4 minutes, that's what most people's sort of tolerance is, especially for first impressions. And I think that Benedek and Dmitry gave people a lot of stuff to appreciate here. But yeah, no, honestly, like, great first impression. There was a wide range of different instruments used here that were used to their peak to excel, and I enjoy the way they were filtered and EQ'd and notched to the various strengths of their different sort of resonances and textures and timbres. The basses were nice and round and usually a little bit sinister and kind of seedy to illustrate a sort of complexity to the situation and potentially a sadness of Heartbreak there. I think the drums, whether they were the orchestral drums with a bit of filtering and sort of compression on the side there, or if they were the more sort of like groovy kind of sort of synthwave-ish kind of stuff that we're used to nowadays in 2020s, that range there we were covered in whatever situation with a nice range of different rhythms covered there. I think they were fantastic to listen to. I also generally appreciated what was going on in regards to, again, the strings creating a sense of tension there, mood, articulating the main sort of progressions and chord triads there, which made it sort of like, again, an engaging dramatic experience there. And I think when you're talking about Heartbreak, that makes a lot of sense. So I think those instrument choices were effective. We had, again, varying rhythms between the drums and such, and other parts of the mix were whole notes or quarter notes with various sort of instruments notched as sub layers or main layers there to have sort of to kind of make you imagine or think about what it could be about. And while we were typically in the same key signature, I think that was just simply for a bit of sort of tonal or compositional continuity there, as if this wasn't necessarily meant to be like 3 individual tracks, but a whole entire sort of mood. And keeping the same key signature across all the songs can help with that, to have a sense of consistency or coherency amongst it, and to kind of help to join the dots. I think that the tones and textures you had here, not only were they chosen well, but it was also showed again a fundamental understanding of music theory and composition to be able to meld and sort of segment them not into the various components, but also to get them to notch well in regards to the overall harmonies and bass lines and everything like that. And while we didn't have a huge amount of complexity to it, we didn't have lots of crazy extensions or parallel majors or minors or anything like that. We stuck with a sort of core motif and sort of kept that bass line throughout. Each of the tracks was unique with its own sort of tempo or own sort of groove. We switched between normal and halftime kind of beats there. We had variety there, enough to keep a listener entertained even if they didn't really understand the context of the track, especially with those instrumental sections. So I think that there are a lot of really smart and sensible decisions here made by the people involved with making this music, not just in singing it. Not only do we understand how to create sort of melodies here vocally that would harmonize well with the rest of the mix, but even when we didn't have a sort of a main sort of obvious lead texture, we knew enough to sort of have occasional sort of synth leads to kind of replicate that, or like to sort of substitute for that, so the listeners had a sense of direction and progression and knew where to go. But at the same time, I like the fact that we didn't really commit to any sort of like bell curves or anything obvious like that. We simply had a situation where we understood the fundamentals. We wanted to create a vibe with each of the tracks that suited the story that we're going to tell within the film or whatever was coming up. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the rest of this goes. My understanding is this music's going to be released around Christmas or in like the new year, January. So again, if you enjoyed it, please do go check it out. But honestly, I've got no doubts about them finding some level of success with this. I think that this is really competently written, composed, and everything is connected. Again, like the accompaniment, the instrument choices here, the way things are phrased, the style of music with the synth is kind of heavy, emotive, tense, gritty kind of, sort of like overall kind of environment that we've sort of written up for ourselves here, alongside the story and Heartbreak. As from what I can understand, as well as the vocals, everything makes sense together. The production, recording, mixing, and mastering was incredibly well handled. I've got nothing but love for what they were trying to do here. I think that they smashed it out of the park in regards to the recording of the vocals. That was nice and bright and nicely filtered and EQ'd. I'm glad they paid attention to any resonances in the higher frequency spectrum, because I think that there could have potentially been a little bit too much sharpness, but that's absolutely fine. It did sort of mesh well and with like the basses and the drums and the guitars and synth pads and strings and sequences and everything else, which were adeptly put in their individual parts of the frequency spectrum in the stereo field and notched in different sort of octaves to be able to sort of make the most of the width of the track that's available here. I like the fact we didn't have any instruments directly arguing with each other. If we knew that we had one thing going on here, we'd just put a second adjustment here. We had some different sort of like, we had like polyrhythms as well alongside sort of stereo opposites and sort of talking amongst each other, a bit of call and response occasionally there. But it was meant to create, again, an atmosphere that suited the story, and we couldn't, like audio quality is incredibly important, especially in film and video and stuff like that, so I'm also thankful for the fact that I didn't sleep on that. The leveling of the various instruments in the mix was great. Again, there weren't any weird sort of resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum, and I think that it was nice and loud without pumping, with lots of dynamic range and changes in perceived loudness to keep things entertaining. They're great with their instrumentals, and they're great with their covers, and I feel as if I've been very, very kind with this review but not in a way that's unwarranted or unrequited. I think they deserve the praise. I wish them the best of luck in future. And that is effectively my review of the album Heartbreak from Benedek Rakovics and Dmitry Makovic. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they hell more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands Out.